Well, hey there, my name is Dan. I'm a music teacher about to listen to the Pizza Tower original soundtrack for the very first time. Together, we're gonna discover hidden connections, understand how music works, and have some fun while we do it. You ready? Type a 1 in the chat if you are ready. If you're watching this video on demand, type a 1 in the comments. We're gonna get rocking and rolling with this thing. Let's do this with time for a Smackdown. Well, that was delightful. Obviously, as we go through, I'm going to have more to say in terms of making connections between pieces. I just saw someone in the chat say, this sounds a little jazz jackrabbity, and indeed, I would agree with you that had Jazz Jackrabbit been made in 2022, this might indeed be how it would have sounded, because it's taken these ideas of this funk thing going on, and then also the idea of hanging out on less chord changes. And then, wow, I mean, just going through this, like, parts like right here. Oops, sorry, wrong song. Here we go. It's like you have the guitar playing, you have a synth trumpet on top of it, and a key synth as well, which sounds sort of like chiming beautiful bells, all layered together at the same time to create a unique sonic texture for this intro to time for a You Can't Even See Me Smackdown. Let's check out Pizza Deluxe. Oh, yes, please. Oh, let's go. Okay. So yes, very Jazz Jackrabbit 2 influence here. We can see changing back and forth between two chords, essentially, for the duration of this entire piece right here. To call this a song, I'm not sure we call this a song. Technically, there are lyrics, but... It kind of is like a 1-4 type thing here. There's a little bit more nuance, something going on in this harmony I'm not quite picking up on just yet. Listen to it for a couple more seconds here. Yeah, so it's a disguised 1-4 basically. So essentially, it's a C minor, but it's being disguised as this kind of, well, okay, there's a couple different ways we could look at this. We could look at this as being a C minor omit 3, so C, well, but then even call it C minor would be incorrect. So we could think of this as being like a C7 sus 2, or indeed we could think of this as being a G minor over C, because we have this G minor triad up top, but then the bass note really is hanging out on the C. Let's go back and listen to it one more time to make sure I'm not steering you wrong. Yeah, it's kind of like an F over C. So it's like C stays in the bass. C7 sus 2, yeah. So, really interesting chord so far. A little bit more, shall we say nuanced than Jazz Jackrabbit 2, but in all fairness, this is what, like 30 years later? So, I mean, my gosh, music is going to evolve and move, and the bar is going to evolve and move. So, I think a fair comparison is to go back to Jazz Jackrabbit 2, at least so far. Let's check out funny, I don't feel comfortable saying this word, CULI Holiday. Okay. Oh my gosh. I don't even remember the music for the Spider-Man pizza minigame, though I do remember playing. It was the Spider-Man 2 game on GameCube, where it was the open world. You could run around New York City. You could climb all the way to the top of the Empire State Building and jump off, and then web swing your way down. Was so cool. I probably did that like 15 times. You go all the way up and like, what the Empire State Building? Anyway, I don't even remember the music from that. So let's talk a little bit about this holiday thing that's going on here. So what's really interesting, it starts off with this. It feels like reggae. But it's not going to stay here. It's going to go, so E now is 1. It's going to go to the 6. And then it goes to an F sharp 7. And then walking up chromatically from D, because I guess that's a thing. And now it switches to this, like, bossa nova chord thing with, like... I don't even know what to describe those drums as. So it's like an E major 7/9. And then we're back to this reggae thing here. Okay, what I love about this is how playful it is. So to switch back and forth between genres here, it's clearly a little tongue-in-cheek. It's having fun. This is just fun. F-U-N, fun music. To go back and forth between... Then just to... Like, why? The answer, because it's fun. Okay, really fun stuff. Let's keep this going with Mondays. Well, something that I love about this is it is at the same time a love letter to so many threatening either boss introductions or something bad happening in a cutscene pieces of music we've heard going all the way back to, from my personal experience, the SNES. But it's also totally unique and adding a really fun twist onto things. So let's take a look. I want to break down one particular thing that's happening here. Yeah, right here. Okay, so this is really interesting. So what's happening here is this is fundamentally switching back and forth between two areas. An area of A flat, which sounds like this, and an area of G, which sounds like this. But here's the thing. It's not quite as simple as that. So what's happening is we have that. That's the A flat. That's our first area. But when we go to the second area, it's actually a mix between the A flat and the G. So here's the A flat sound. Here's the G sound. And here's what's happening. We're taking the lowest note from the G sound and the highest two notes from the A flat sound and like mixing them together. Dee-doo. Delightful tension and dissonance. Meanwhile, through the whole thing, there's this descending line going. Cool. And so what's happening is in this line, they're emphasizing this note right here, which is a D note, which when we stack it up against an A flat, and whenever we hear notes in music, whenever we hear sounds in music, the lowest sound always gives all the other sounds their context. It's the way our brains perceive sound. So because this is the lowest sound here, when we hear the second sound, it actually sounds, we're always going to compare it to the lowest sound. So in relationship, they sound lots of tension, lots of dissonance. They sound very dissonant together. And this is called an interval of a tritone. And this is one of the most word just slipped off the top of my head. Dissonant. One of the most dissonant sounds we have in music between two notes. So this is a note, 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 this is a note. All these are different notes. And when we take two notes and put them together, one of the most dissonant combinations of notes is this relationship right here, the tritone. Very dissonant. So creating lots of threatening feelings on this Monday as if something bad is going to happen in the week to come. Let's check out Unearthly Blues. By the way, chat, if you are live, please feel free to ask questions about the OST in the chat. And if I see them, I will answer them to the best of my abilities. Okay, let's keep going with Unearthly Blues. Heck yes. This is a hot beat. Oh, yes, please. I love that. They're like 80s R&B. Help me out, guys. Do you know what the name of the instrument is where it kind of sounds like a monkey going, whoo, 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 whoo? Because I do not remember the name of that instrument. Because that combined with this, just the like chromaticism microtonal thing where it's all about the rhythm and the feel and the groove, I'm just loving the composer's sort of playful sense of musicality being used here. A monkey drum. Yeah. Thank you. Well, Jordan Cole, could you, Paulo, could you guys write that out phonetically? Banana phone. Very funny, Manini boy. I forget the name of it. Sketchy. Pronunciation guide, please. I think they used a real monkey, says Ms. Joseph. Okay. A kuika. All right, thank you. Okay, so many things here. Firstly, this is not what I was expecting to happen with entitled like Unearthly Blues. I was thinking we were actually going to get a blues. Now, it started off with this very interesting thing where it was like, yeah. And then, sorry. It's like, okay, interesting, has really nothing to do with what comes after it, but yeah, an interesting way of starting things off. And then it's totally different here. Right? And then we go into this, in my opinion, sick dance beat. I saw someone in the chat says this is pretty close to being good dance music. I'd say this is pretty good dance music. I'd take it one step further. I agree with you. So that right there is like 1 to 4. This is Jazz Jackrabbit staple land. The 1 is the F sharp minor. The 4 is going to be a B7. I'm paraphrasing. Okay, cool. Monkey. And like that wow, wow, wow going on in the right. Like, this is sick. This is delightful. This is so playful. And now it's like, where are we going? And right here, is what we would do if we were in the 80s with like some Anita Baker or something. But anyway, some really cool stuff going on in Unearthly Blues. I'm absolutely loving this soundtrack so far. Let's check out It's Pizza Time. Hold on. That's what we just heard. Even that clock tick sound has that motif in it. Oh, that's chaos. That's the motif right there, super slow and low. Well, kind of. Okay, so we have a motif we've now heard 2 songs in a row, which goes something like this. And we've heard that in chord form, we've heard that in note form, we even hear it in the sound of the ticking clock. The clock itself is giving us part of this motif. So I'm going to go ahead and guess this is a important motif for this OST, and I'm also going to guess we're going to be hearing it again, considering it was hinted at in Unearthly Blues. We heard it big time here in Pizza Time, not just with the chords, but also with the melody itself. Now, something I want to point out to you here is when things really start to go off the rails, I have 98% confidence in saying that It's Pizza Time is a timed trial or timed mission, where we get close to the end of the time and everything starts going off the rails. Chat, type a 1 if I'm right, that this level here has to do with a timed challenge. And the reason why I say that is because it keeps on speeding up and getting more chaotic as we go on to mirror what you feel inside of you. And I know, because I play video games too, that when there's a time trial and you start getting close to the end, your heart starts pumping that adrenaline. So you're like, am I going to make it? Am I going to make it? Escape sequence, sure. Yeah, essentially at a fundamental level, both are timed, right? Because if not, something's going to catch you based on the time that you spend in it. So let's check this one part out here at the end, because this is just delightful. So the guitar riff of let's see. Paired against the gosh, sometimes when you try and say things too fast, you kind of get messed up with your tongue. Same thing can happen with fingers when you're trying to play things. Yeah, so really interesting sort of cacophony experience at the end with so much going on in, yeah, that was delightful. That plays when there's 1 minute left and the timer says Aspie. That's really cool. Welcome if you're joining. If you've never been on this channel before, I'm a music teacher and I've never heard this OST before, and so I'm giving my thoughts, breakdowns, and reactions to it live and in real time, again, having never heard it before. So every time I hear a track, it's the first time I'm ever hearing it. Let's check out Hot Spaghetti. Much better than cold spaghetti, in my opinion. Reminds me like Donkey Kong. Okay, so it starts off with this delightful riff. Ah. Which is so cool. And then it goes through with these crashing chords. Sound amazing underneath it. No. I'm sorry. Okay. That was really cool. All right, so check this out. Woo! That's fun. Okay. So everyone's saying cold spaghetti is arguably better, so I say we go ahead and check out this cold spaghetti business. I mean, type a 2 in the chat if you've ever eaten cold spaghetti. Type a 2 in the chat if you've ever woken up and the first meal of the day you have eaten has been cold spaghetti, because I know I sure have done that. My goodness. Type a 2 in the chat if you woke up one day and the first meal you had was some cold spaghetti. And I'll make an exception. It could also be cold ziti or cold linguine. You know, cold pasta. 2, it's called depression. King Peggy 2, sadly. Okay, let's keep it going with cold spaghetti. Same riff. I'm loving the use of detuning. Now, you might ask, Dan, what on earth is detuning? Well, it's when you hear one simple thing that happens in the music, and then that thing starts to get lower, and sometimes it also gets slower. And so when you hear that happening in the music, that's actually a really easy effect to create in a digital audio workstation, which is what modern day video game composers generally use to create soundtracks, and it's actually relatively easy to create this effect. However, to use it effectively and make it tasteful is a whole nother ballgame, and I'm loving so far how Mr. Sauceman is creating these slow down tape effects here, because we heard them also in Unearthly Blues. We heard them with some of the chromatic things going down. Now, in that case, that was more of a pitch bend rather than slowing down at the same time. So when you have the descending in pitch accompanied by a decrease in speed, it is likely that it is a tape slowdown effect, because I don't know if any of you are as old as I am, but we used to have these things called cassette tapes, and if you were to slow them down, that's what happened. Okay, let's keep things going with Meatophobia. Let's check it out. Oh, sorry, we're in a new song here. Okay, so Meatophobia, some really interesting things going on here. Now I'm going to be able to approximate what just happened on the guitar, and then I will break it down for you. So we had... Sorry. All right, here we go, for real this time. Ah! Okay, well, it's like, that's interesting. I can't see any direct connection right now between that main motif we heard in this one, because sometimes what composers do, there's essentially 12 or 13 ways you can actually modify a motif, including things like retrograde, which is when you flip it around backwards, and interval alteration and augmentation and diminution. And I'm looking for one of those ways here, and I can't quite find a connection. So perhaps there is no musical connection other than this is just a separate theme, perhaps meant to incite some kind of fear in the listener, because it sounds a little, well, I get fearful when I hear it. Let's check out Theatrical Shenanigans. What delightful theatrical shenanigans. I'm not even sure what to do with this, so I'll break down one or two things in this, and we'll see where we go from there. So at the beginning here of Theatrical Shenanigans, what's interesting is we are revisiting the key of F sharp minor. So we've actually been in F sharp minor before, so we're starting to see that Mr. Sauceman, the composer, is showing some affinity for a certain number of keys. And indeed, if we go back and we use Jazz Jackrabbit 2 as a template for understanding some inspiration for this soundtrack, we can see that that's actually the same thing in Jazz Jackrabbit 2, especially in the first half of the OST. There was many similar There's a few keys that were used, and many of the songs were in similar keys. As we can see, perhaps we're starting to get a similar thing here with Pizza Tower, and if this matches up with the framework, not copying, but the framework of Jazz Jackrabbit 2, we will see an evolution and breaking outside of this as we go on. And furthermore, we've also seen with many other OSTs that we can stick with a small group. Sometimes the composers stick with a small number of keys in the beginning, and then as the story starts to expand, also the keys start to expand as well. Now, some interesting parts going on here, including something like that. Oh, that's cool. Oh, that ending of that riff's delightful. I'll listen to it one more time. I think that was it. Oh, ending on an E. Sorry. Okay, let's play this riff one time. Oops, from the beginning. A delightful riff there. Now, you might be saying, Dan, what makes this so delightful? What makes this delightful is the way the composer ended the riff. Because the first 3 quarters of the riff are relatively, well, predictable. Not predictable as in badly written, but predictable as in from a sense of like looking back at all rock, funk, and blues music for the past like 50, 60 years. Relatively, it's like, we can kind of expect. Sure. And then I thought it was going to go higher, but it didn't. Sure. And then... Now where this riff gets genius is right here. I've never heard that ending for this type of riff before. Now you might be saying, well, Dan, that's all well and good. What on earth is a riff? A riff is when you have notes that are typically lower, not higher. So lower sounding is going to be down here versus higher up here. And it's something that's repetitive. And just that rhythm at the end, love it. So cool. All right, let's check out Put on a Show. Okay, so something interesting to point out is that track number 10, Theatrical Shenanigans, which you heard just before this one, was by Mr. Sauceman, whereas this Put on a Show is by ClascyJitto, which is the video game alias of electronic music producer Rizzy or Rizai. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Because I apologize for saying I'm very likely I said that wrong, and I'm sorry. So I think what's interesting is that Put on a Show is essentially taking the elements from Theatrical Shenanigans and going in an entirely new direction. Put a 2 in the chat if you could hear the connection between Theatrical Shenanigans and Put on a Show. Put a 2 in the chat if you could hear, well, something makes sense here and something's matching. Put a 2 in the chat if you could hear that connection. Sure. Awesome. I love brackets, guy putting thing in brackets. That's hilarious. Okay. Yeah, sister songs. Yep, sure. Yep, that'd be one way of talking about it. From the same level. Yes, but it's interesting to hear how you could have one composer create an idea and then maybe hand that idea off to a second composer, and that second composer be like, okay, I see where you're going, and this is where I want to go. And hearing the difference between Theatrical Shenanigans and Put on a Show at a very high level is, to me, very interesting. I love the kazoo. I love the sort of screaming wah, 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 voice in the background to create textural elements. By the way, type a 3 if you notice the screaming voice in the background. Type a 3 in the chat if you heard the screaming voice, and type a 1 if you did not. Type a 1 if you did not hear the screaming voice. Type a 3 if you did, because I can go point that out to you if some of you did not hear it. Okay, many of you heard it. All right, I'm not seeing any ones. Great. Good ears, guys. Okay, cool. So, huge respect, obviously, to the composers. As always, let's keep rocking and rolling Oh, it wasn't a kazoo. It was literally ClascyJitto screaming. Cool. Yeah, I'd buy it. You put some bit crushers and some distortion on that. Cool. All right, cool. Let's check out the Death That I Deservioli. Speeding up. Okay. So besides a very fast and butchered attempt at a Megalovania remix there right at the end, because that was indeed the chord progression for Megalovania. Really some interesting things. So the one thing I want to talk about is the way that the song starts and then how this progresses, because if we look at... So we have this arpeggios. What is this? And then how it speeds up here, and then it becomes a textural element. Just adds to the chaos. Guys, scale of 1 to 5, how chaotic? How chaotic is this game to play? Because from the soundtrack so far, I'm going to guess this is insanely insanely chaotic and like so much fun because that's what it sounds like. Yeah, 6, 1 out of 5, it's a 6. It sounds like it's 7, 10, 100. 10 out of 10. On a scale of 1 to 5 is a 10 out of 10 chaotic. To add to the chaos, we're going to break the rating scale. Yeah. Cuz I mean, look, if you're going to create a piece of music to imply time-based adrenaline pumping chaos, this is it. And I'm so in awe of the composers for doing what they did to create this sound and these textures. It's amazing. Let's check out Dungeon Freakshow. Two basses here. Okay, so let's bring it back to Dungeon Freakshow. Number one, this change in the middle is like... Dun. Okay, so this part right here, we actually hear there's two basses playing at the same time. So I'm going to point this out to you as we go, and you're going to type a 2 for two basses whenever you can start to hear it. Okay, so right here. In your right ear, there's an acoustic or upright bass that's being played pizzicato, like as if someone's playing jazz. So that's happening in the right ear. Now the second bass is more in the center of your headphones. It feels like it's dead ahead of you. And it's actually an octave lower than that first bass. So when you can hear the two basses, great job, Surreal K9. A shout out and welcome to Surreal K9. Surreal, I hope you're keeping it surreal, and I hope everything is well with you. Okay, so yeah, type a 2 if you can hear those two basses. I'm going to play it again. They're playing those notes. Okay, some of you are hearing it. Good ears. For those of you who could not hear it and you want to hear it, go back and listen to that part again. And if you don't know what an acoustic upright bass sounds like when it's being played in jazz, you should go on to YouTube and type in upright bass jazz and just listen to some upright bass players. Absolutely shred. Go listen to Ron Carter play the bass. And then come back and listen to this and you will hear it. Okay, let's check out Secret Hoppin'. We have a return of the riff. Oh, we're changing now. This is a wild piece of music. Let's bring it back. I want to unpack one of these bass lines. And also, in general, what's happening here is that just pull it back. Like going back between a B or a B minor, my ears might be leading me wrong there. But that's what I'm hearing. Now, I want to point out to you this absolutely sick bass part here, because this is a lot of fun. Pull back a little ways. So right there, it's even implying a switch between the parallel major and parallel minor. We're hearing an F sharp major. That's literally playing the notes of an F sharp major chord and then implying an F sharp minor. Now, there is a song that I can cite as being a predecessor for many of these minor ideas. Maybe the composers were not using this as a reference, but it was out there in the 60s. And that's called Hey Bulldog by the Beatles. If you go listen to that. That riff right there is very reminiscent of a lot of these minor ideas. Now, that's not at all claiming originality or, you know, that it definitely is connected. But that's an interesting connection if you want to go check that out. Let's check out Leaning Dream. Radiohead. I'll start it off with Radiohead. This just got so weird. Okay, so Leaning Dream. Pretty interesting chord progression here. We have a C major, followed by an E major, followed by what is essentially a D minor, and to an E minor, to a D minor, back to a C. Very interesting chord progression. In the beginning reminded me of Radiohead's I'm a creep, I'm a creep, I'm a weirdo. What the heck am I doing here? Technically that would be an F, but F is one note away. I don't belong here, or whatever it is. Cool. All right, let's check out Tuesdays in the Park with Dan. Oh no, we're on Pepperoni Strikes. Excuse me. Well, that was absolutely sick. I don't even, like, I'm going to have to go back and listen to that right now to actually tell you what was happening key signature-wise, because, like, I heard what the drums are doing, but my goodness. Okay, let's pull this volume back so we're not clipping. Oh, that's it. Oh, it's just 4-4 straight ball down the middle, straight fastball in the middle. I don't know why my ears were playing some trick on me, or I was like, wait, what's happening? I wasn't really listening very closely, too. That's crazy. It's the syncopation from the riff against the of the drums. This is wild stuff. One of the things I'm really loving about this, which is different from Jazz Jackrabbit, is the amount of hard rock that's being used. This is like 80s sort of, let's see, Bon Jovi, Metallica type thing. You know, yeah, you know, we could look at Metallica's first record, which is called Kill 'Em All. We'd say, sure, that is one of the, perhaps the pivotal moment in terms of hard rock becoming metal. And indeed, Kill 'Em All is heavier than, you get Seek and Destroy, things like that off that record. Sure, we're going to call that metal. So you can see influences here of metal and hard rock, which is so cool. Yeah, 80s, 90s. Exactly. This is wild stuff. I'm loving this. Type of 3 if you are enjoying this soundtrack so far. Type of 3 if you like this game. Type of 3 if you're stoked to be alive here today listening to some awesome music. I got a type of 3. I am stoked. Okay, let's check out Tuesdays. My goodness. Okay, now I really have to ask you a question before we listen to this next one. Oh, I love you guys hitting those 100 emojis. That's amazing. Love it. Okay. This is going to divide the room. I know I'm not talking here, and it's a moment of silence, but it's going to be worth it. Ooh. They said don't discuss politics at the dinner table. Heh. Well, this is interesting because this Mondays now to Tuesdays thing is reminiscent of, if I am not incorrect, Shin Megami Tensei 4, where we had a scenario we were going to a dungeon, and each level of the dungeon, the music got progressively more filled out and built each time. Type a 2 in the chat if I'm correct on that, and if I am rocking and rolling on the right track with where this Monday, Tuesdays thing is headed. I would love to know. Sounds about right, says Surreal K9. Sweet. 1.5. Oh. They're themed differently. Well, Mondays and Tuesdays were pretty close. I'm not wrong. I got a 1.5. All right. Persona 3. Yeah, the Tartarus in part 3 is what I was thinking of. Okay, that was Persona 3, excuse me. Not Shin Megami Tensei, rather Persona 3 is what I was thinking of. Okay, let's check out Oregano Mirage. What? You say it's not pronounced oregano, it's oregano? Well, excuse me, Oregano Mirage. Is that an dude? Oh, we're gonna this transition. We're gonna listen to Oregano UFO. Then I'll give my thoughts on both. Okay, so here's what's interesting. I don't know if you're watching the chat. If you're watching this on demand, you should open the chat because always fun things happen on these streams in the chat. So we have some conjecture in the chat about the time signature of this piece of music. So I want to shed some light and then also leave us with a question. So the time signature of 9/8, yes, would be compound, as in we'd have 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. Now the difference between compound and simple time signatures is that each beat. Now, a beat would be where you nod your head to the music. So, for example, if we go back and listen to this, we... go here. Here. Boom, 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 boom. And so people are saying 9/8, people are saying 9/4 because there's 9 of these places where you would nod your head before the music comes back around in what's called measures. Now, I don't have time to give you an entire music theory lesson to catch you up to speed on what measures are. You go back, watch previous streams. I've got a free list of music theory lessons on this channel and other channels as well. So let's talk about this. Okay, so clearly this music is not compound, right? Clearly this music is in, every beat's divided into 2 equal parts instead of 3 equal parts, which would be compound. Now, here's where it gets interesting. People say, well, 9/8 because it's fast, 9/4 because it's slow. Is 9/4 technically not compound? Anytime you have a 9, it's the top number where you put a 1, 4, 8, 16, or 32 on the bottom. Technically speaking, we're going to assume that it's compound. Now, here's the thing. 9/8 is the least commonly used of all the compound time signatures. In fact, when I was writing my Music Theory 3 book, to find 2 examples of 9/8 took me like, I don't know, I think it was 2 days of research. To find a pop song that was a 9/8, and then to find pieces of classical music that are 9/8, it's a little bit easier because Bach used to write some stuff in 9/8. Now, the question becomes, okay, if we know that the time signature of 9/8 is typically associated with 3 groupings of 3, or indeed 9/4 would be 3 groupings of 3, how then would we think about when we have 9 beats in a measure, yet each beat is divided into 2 equal parts instead of 3 equal parts? And for this, I would propose, and this is not necessarily the answer, but it is an answer, that we could think of this as being 4/4 plus 5/4. And the reason I say this is because if you listen to the synth part is actually laying this down. Or indeed, it's 4 plus 4, 4 plus 4, plus 1 plus 4, because you can hear in the synth part that the synth part is giving us 1 and a 2 and a 3, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 and. So the synth part is actually giving us an even 4 measures before it starts up with a new pattern. So let me break this down for you. 3, 4. Right. Right there. That's... So you can see how that synth part is actually lining up 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a, and then it's going 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 5 E and a. So I'd really call this a 4 plus 4 plus 5 plus 4, but that being said, you could write this in 9/8 or 9/4, but instead of using the dotted half note as being, or excuse me, instead of using the dotted half note in 9/4, the dotted quarter note in 9/8 as being the beat unit, you would use the quarter note as being the beat unit in 9/4, the 8th note indeed as being the beat unit in 9/8, and kind of be a little unorthodox about it all, but it would still work out. So there you go. That would be the answer, and the real answer is just whatever's on the composer's sheet music. Yes, it can be the Manini Boy, and I have given that answer before when we've found ourselves in situations like this, and I will stand by that. Okay, so delightful exploration on Oregano UFO. Whew. My goodness. Okay, so we listened to Oregano Mirage, which was wild, a little rocky, a little out there, and then we come into Oregano UFO, which was like a lot more tame and straightforward, with the exception of the time signature difference. My goodness. And so we're starting to see that there are two ways that the composers are really translating so far. And I say two, I'm distilling this down to be very simple. The first would be that there's this rock influence, right? We hear rock riffs, we hear guitar, electric guitar with distortion. And the second is we're hearing this sort of R&B house music type of dance. Yeah, this dance, house music is dance, but like dance R&B type thing. So far we have, at a very distilled down level, kind of a binary going on in between what's happening. Okay. Yeah, this music is this is Western music. I mean, no questions asked. This is not, we're not hearing some, microtonal thing or some macam with, two different scales stacked on top of each other, or a raga where, we only approach certain notes by other notes. It's like, this is clearly Western in its approach. Okay, let's check out Tombstone, Arizona. Okay, so let's talk about these chords here that we just heard in Tombstone, Arizona. So D is going to be our 1. So we hear D minor to G minor, which is going to be our 4. Then we go to the 5, A7, back to D minor. Now here's what's interesting. Now it goes to the major 4, G7 to an E. Well, we'll call it E fully diminished, or maybe just E diminished. Yeah, we'll just call it E diminished. Then to a 5, so E diminished would be 2, to 5, back to 1. That was the main chord progression for the first half of the piece. Then it switched up and it went 6, which B flat, 7, which is C, to A, to D, to, sorry. Let me pull that back. Yeah, B flat, A, to D. Oh, now we're back to the original. B flat, C, A. I was right, okay. D minor. And then one time it does it double speed. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now double time. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's called the harmonic rhythm. So the harmonic rhythm there was doubled to create an interesting effect and to keep the conversation rocking and rolling and also interesting. Okay, let's keep this rocking and rolling with Mort's Farm. Well, this was delightful. We're going to pull it back and actually break down the chords of what's happening here. Ew. I'm losing it. And then there. Okay, so what's funny is that Mort has actually been driving around town with the girl I love singing Forget You. Forget you. I guess the change in my pocket, it wasn't enough. And I'm like, forget you and I'll forget her too. And then to C major 7. Oh, what's that next chord? Help my ears. There we go. And back. So then it goes A major 7, C major 7, F major 7, B flat major 7. Delightful, fun. Thanks for grooving with me as I figured that out. Okay, let's keep this going with what's on the kids menu. Okay, so what's on the kids menu? I'll break down the chords for you real quick. It was just a D major 7 to a C major 7 to a C sharp major 7 and back. At a very fundamental level. That's all that was going on there. Okay, let's keep going and check out the Yeehaw Delivery Boy. Okay, so why does Yeehaw Delivery Boy, why is it called Yeehaw Delivery Boy? Well, you can hear the sound that sounds like whistling. That you can hear in a lot of old westerns, that there's whistling over, indeed, a guitar. I'm not going to try to finish that. Okay, so anytime you have a Western, you're going to have this, it's very typical. That's actually called a gallop, which you can hear in metal all the time. Now, oftentimes in Westerns, it'll be a little slower, and you'll have a lot of, hang on a second, I'm going to disappear for a second, but I'm going to come back with a Western sounding guitar. So don't go anywhere. I'm going to disappear for a second. I'm going to come back with a Western sounding guitar. Don't go anywhere. With this effect, hang on, let me make it more pronounced. There we go, that's a little too much. There And so you have this combination of a guitar sound with that whistle, which would be that Western sound. So the guitar effect there, that's called a tremolo. And this is not perfect. I would need to take some time and actually really dial it in. Okay, let's keep it going with Secret Hoppin'. this like toy piano sound here. Is Mort the chicken here at Secret Hoppin'? Because we just heard some chords from Mort's farm. Okay. So, Secret Hoppin', we heard some elements of, well, let's see. We heard from Mort's Farm. So, in Mort's Farm, if you recall, there was a moment where I was like really cross-eyed about well, not cross-eyed, but I couldn't figure out a chord progression. It was like, what is going on? And what it was is what it was. And we just heard that in Secret Hoppin', which is how I knew Mort, the character, was there in Secret Hoppin'. Now, guys, I don't run ads on these streams. Believe me, I get messages almost every day, emails, through Instagram, of people who want me to sell you gaming chairs and headphones and speakers and guitars. And I say no. And I say no so that we can have our time here to appreciate the music. So please support this channel by sharing this video with someone who you think you will like it, by sharing this channel with someone who you think will enjoy these OST reactions, breakdowns, and have fun with you. Share it with a friend. That is my ask. Okay, with that being said, we're going to pause here for today. We'll come back and do part 2, so don't miss it. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, crush the notification bell so you know when we come back to do part 2. Now we're going to go ahead and read some super chats from the stream. And you might want to hang out till the end of the stream, but, you know, as always, it's up to you. I don't like to push people to do things. I was letting you know you might want to hang out till the end of the stream. All right, let's put some background music on. Okay, here we go. Rubberman 202. Says, I'm so glad you're finally getting around to this. Pizza Tower is one of my favorite games ever now, and its soundtrack flipping rocks. I think you'll like it. Put this word Super Mario RPG's OST on the SNES. You got it, Rubberman 202. And thank you, Rubberman 202, for upvoting and being so vocal about getting this rocking and rolling. You were the first, I believe, on the channel to request this, and many have followed suit since, proving how popular this game is becoming. Rubberman 202 goes on to say, all these comparisons to Wario Land 4 make me want to see reaction to that game OST, so here's a donation. Push for it. It's hard to get clean rips of the OST, though. I'll help where I can. Thank you, Rubberman202. Now, Jamaswi says this OST uses a lot of sound fonts from older video games, I'm pretty sure. Yes, Jamaswi, you are correct. In fact, we heard the orchestra hits that we've heard in games going back, well, all the way back, and then also listening to games as modern as this one, and even things like Big Shot by Toby Fox. Rubberman202 says, fun fact, Mort the Chicken is an obscure PlayStation 1 game whose main character cameos in Pizza Tower as a power-up to help Peppino. I recommend that game's OST, but instead I'll put this to Wario Land 4. That's a good idea, Rubberman202, staying consistent, moving things up. Thank you very much for supporting the channel. As always, Rubberman202, thank you for your support. Lehman says, I highly recommend the Blasphemous OST. Take care. You got it, Lehman. We're going to use those €2 to upvote the OST. So thank you for that. Rubberman202 says, Yeehaw Delivery Boy, inspired by Hideki Naganuma's music. So I'm requesting Sonic Rush with the Super Chat. You got it, Rubberman. Zephoria. Hey, Zephoria. It's been a while. Zephoria says, hey there. Glad I can make it to one of your streams. Always miss out on them. Pizza Tower is one of my... thank you, Verse, for donating. Very much appreciated. Thank you. And we will make sure I count that at the next counting. So thank you very much, Verse. Zephoria, sorry. Says, hey there. Glad I can make it to one of your streams. I always miss out on them. Pizza Tower is one of my favorite OSTs. Oh, I'm so glad you could make it. Zephoria goes on to ask, I'm making my first album soon. Got any pro tips? Yes! My pro tip for you is to segment each step of the process and each skill. So your first step would be to write the songs. So first put on your songwriter hat and write all the songs completely. And then within the songs, we could break the songs down into lyrics, melody. We can break melody down into 2 parts, which is rhythm and then the notes and then the harmony. Right? So once you have the songs by themselves with just melody and basic chords to the place where they sound really, really good and those songs are very compelling, then and only then start doing production. Because a lot of times, I've made this mistake, I've wasted literally hundreds of hours of my life doing this, is you get a song that's not that good and you try and fix it in production, and that's not the move. So get your songs done first. Get it so you're so happy with your songs that it's like lyrics, melody, chords are just perfect by themselves. Then and only then go into the production stage. Once you're in the production stage, you should be totally done with the song and not feel like you need to go back and change anything about the song. So when I say work on those songs until you're really happy with it, I mean make sure your songs are done, like you are done with the songs, then move into production. Now once you're in production, if you already know how to mix, you can start to mix as you produce, because a lot of times how you use compressors and effects and everything, panning is going to go into how you want the final mix to sound. And then When you mix, make sure you're totally done with the production. You don't want to have to go back and forth between mixing, like, oh, now this doesn't quite sound right, let me go back and fix it. Oh, this isn't quite like, I've done that. It's a waste of time, don't do it. Make sure you are done with each step of the process before you move on to the next one. If you're mixing and mastering yourself, pretend like you're sending it to a different person. So completely finish each step of the process by yourself before you go to the next so they don't bleed into each other. Then once you're done mixing, if you're gonna master it yourself, have that be its own step of the process. And if you're mastering, obviously use reference tracks, as you should also do when you are mixing. You know, find a song that sounds similar to yours or uses similar instruments, and it doesn't have to be exact same thing, but use reference tracks. And same thing goes for if you're making an OST. It's like, don't worry about the arrangement. You know, write the melody first. Figure out your themes first. Figure out who gets what theme. Then you go in and figure everything else out, because otherwise what happens is you have to scale back and forth, switching hats on what's going on. You've never finished one part of the process, and you're going to try and basically build the plane while you're flying in the air, and that's never a good idea. So do one step of the process at a time. One step at a time. And if that means that you need to take longer for your album, that's okay, because your album's going to be better. Now, to give you context, I still make this mistake sometimes. Like my latest book that I just released, I sent it to the designer for book design, and then I was like, oh, wait a second, there's an extra chapter I need to put in here. And it's like, I should have waited another month before sending it to design. So I make that mistake still to this day, and it costs me time and money and focus. So don't make that mistake, would be my advice to you. Okay. Now, with that said, I said you wanted to hang out to the end, because people who hang out to the end, you get something special. You get an invite to my Discord. Now, this isn't even going to stay in the chat, because I want to incentivize you to show up live for chats, because I'm going to give you things when you show up live and you stay all the way to the end. So here we go. I'm going to put this link in the chat for about 30 seconds. Here it comes, and boom. Go ahead and grab that, click on that, come hang out in Discord. Okay. And with that said, we're going to go ahead. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time. Take care, and goodbye.